Shin Megami Tensei I is many things. Some good, others not so. In some ways, it has aged extremely poorly, with the gameplay and presentation being at best basic, and bluntly speaking, clunky. Yet in others, it still stands head and shoulders with the best that the franchise has to offer, with what is, in my opinion, the best law ending, and the effort to actually attempt to make a case for neutrality as a route with its own pros and cons, unlike later games where the middle ground is fetishized as the objective best to the point of being devoid of most substance when compared to law and chaos. Fortunately for this series, much like its many successors, the demon designs fall into the latter, not only in the sprite work but also in the illustrations that Kaneko-sensei made specifically for his interpretations of the various monsters, spirits, and deities of folklore, history, and mythology that first appeared as demons in this game, one of which would go on to become the mascot of Atlus as a company. Today, we'll be looking over 6 demon designs that first appeared in this game, but which would be lost to time as the series went on, and which deserve to make a reappearance in my opinion, preferably in the inevitable Persona 6. While Oni has been a constant within the series, Oni variants and specific Oni have been surprisingly tiny, with only the 4 Oni used by Fujiwara no Chikata during the mid-Heian era being constant. And even then, all 4, like the 4 Heavenly Kings and 4 Benevolent Animals, feel interchangeable in their inclusion due to an over-reliance on their shared mythology as opposed to what each could bring individually to a story. Though that's a criticism to be elaborated upon another time. The point I want to bring to attention is that there are many named Oni in Japanese mythology, and none more so prominent than Shuten Doji, who is often credited as being the leader of all Oni, and is furthermore the son of another frequent Japanese mythology staple in the series, the Yamata no Orochi. Retaining the skin color and humanoid physique of Oni while also bearing notable differences that invoke an older, battle-hardened, and wiser appearance in a beard and slouched posture, along with notably longer, more pointed horns, makes this design feel associated but not derivative of Oni. In my 6 Demons from SMT5 video, I briefly went over Daemon's design in the honorable mentions section, where I criticized the heavenly hellful aesthetic divide as one that prioritizes modern sensibilities over the mythologically accurate. Daemon was a case akin to Idun and Amanozako, where the desire to portray something familiar to a random being of mythology without regard to said mythology resulted in a design given to a demon that feels mismatched to it. If Atlus wants a generic demon aesthetic in their arsenal for the Chaos alignment, then Floretti is a better choice than Daimon, given that, unlike Daimon, Floretti is actually a demon, as opposed to the distinctly unmalevolent namesake. The extra features of the hooved feet, fangs, an uncanny human body type, complete with visible body hair, and unkept fingernails, adding to this design's demonic presence far more than Daimon's did. Originally designed as a fiend, Crusader is one of the many demons who have only appeared in one of the re-releases of SMT1, in this specific case the PC port, and nowhere else. Given how iconic the skeletal designs of the fiends have been as of Nocturne, it's somewhat surprising that Atlus hasn't taken advantage of this to make use of this design. While personally I prefer other aesthetics to the blatant skeleton one of the fiends themselves, a lot of the extra touches of this design specifically, with the broken weapons sticking out of the armor, the missing leg, and the need to rely on his spear as a crutch for balance, showcase a war-torn appearance that the skeleton complements rather nicely, rather than being the core of a design, which is why I actually think that Crusader is the best skeletal demon in the series, something that only adds to the desire for me to see this design return in the future. Next up is the only demon on this list to actually go on and make a reappearance during Atlas's golden age, albeit only once. Nagatsune Hiko, alongside his brother Abehiko, would serve as a boss in the most aggressively mid-game in the whole of SMT, Raido Kuzunoha versus the Soulless Army, which I hope to make a video on when I finish recording the footage. Subscribe and comment if you are interested, by the way. Back on the topic, while this game was Abehiko's first appearance, his brother Nagatsune Hiko actually first appeared in SMT1, with Abehiko's design clearly being based upon Nagatsune Hiko's, providing a yin-yang Tajitsu-like contrast especially prevalent during their boss-exclusive Deadly Spin. As I've mentioned in previous videos, Japanese mythology tends to be amongst the best represented and designed in SMT, and I am of the opinion that some of the earlier portrayed yokai and kami should get a chance to shine once again, especially ones like Nagatsune Hiko, who's left a lasting impression despite scant appearances. I am an advocate for SMT to have a wide and diverse range of demons appear in each game, but ever since the Golden Age it has felt like many designs have become, while not necessarily the same, somewhat restrictive, with lacking variety in types of demons represented that would capture an immediate appeal with various fellow niches. The older games from the 90s are home to a greater range of demons from various different mythologies and sources beyond, including history, conspiracy theories, pulp culture, and even cinema. Likely in part due to the move from 2D to 3D, a lot of these designs faded to time, but many do deserve a reappearance, especially as their return can appeal to niches who are specifically attracted to their aesthetic or concept. The one I'd like to focus on for this list, however, is general monster aesthetics or ideas. Not necessarily the various monsters that follow a similar pattern throughout history, but more the general term that we use to describe them, such as werewolves, fairies, dragons, angels, and elves. Most of these have appeared as demons in the series, and with the exception of Angel, have largely been abandoned as the series has gone on. A good example of this is one that I brought up in my Nocturne list of 6, where I went over how Tengu was replaced by 3 different types of Tengu that game onwards. However, out of all of these general monster aesthetics and ideas, I'd like to select what is perhaps the most iconic of movie monsters and anime non-human beings outside of Japanese mythology, the vampire. A monster that has become synonymous with fiction more so than any other type of monster, save dragon, and so very much like them, it's somewhat odd that only a handful of mythological vampires and vampire-like creatures have ever appeared in the series. Vampire proper has not appeared since the turn of the millennium, which is a shame given that this is a design that ticks a lot of boxes for those attracted to vampire mythology as well as classical literature and/or cinema. Vampires as a race of beautiful humans with thoughts, feelings, and empathetic compassion is a very recent phenomenon. In actual European mythologies, they were more akin to Nosferatu, monstrous, deformed, and needing blood or life force as nourishment to sustain themselves. This design, as a combination of Dracula and Nosferatu, not only plays homage to classic movie monsters that remain iconic even to those who have never seen their films or read their literature, but also captures the edge to the generic vampire mythology, making this the perfect generic vampire design in my opinion. Especially with the body language of a closely guarded, impractical, and off-putting self-hug, which to me looks like a pose that he would make while slumbering within his coffin standing straight up, which emphasizes an eeriness only aided by the bald head, dead eyes, fangs sticking out of his closed mouth, and more realistic skin tone. Vampire has had a handful of other designs over the years, including a redesign in SMT2, none of which have been as good as this one in my opinion. Thus, if Vampire is ever to make a reappearance, the SMT1 design is the one that should be used. With those 5 now stated, let's go through some honorable mentions for this video. As one of the most iconic of cryptids, it's surprising that Bigfoot has only ever appeared in SMT1, and as an easily missable minimal chance encounter who cannot even be fused or recruited. It deserved a mention for this, but this is not a design that I feel particularly embodies the Sasquatch. Barbagazi deserves a mention not only for the troll-like design that manages to be both ugly and terrifying in a way that I would call a positive for the series, as well as for the mythology, as Swiss folklore is not one found in abundance within the series. While there is nothing especially wrong with this design, as the grotesque deserves a spot amongst the demonic, the demon that it is assigned to is somewhat mismatched to friendly Swiss mountain hominids. This comment on screen now that I received in my last video basically sums up the reasons for Vairalchana's inclusion into the series. While I like the sprite work, the wiki doesn't have an official image, so Pegasus is disqualified on those grounds. And finally, Werewolf. For the same reasons as Vampire essentially, but while I actually prefer werewolves over vampires both aesthetically and in conception, most of what I wanted to say with Werewolf was said with Vampire, whom I could make a stronger and more practical case for, hence why Werewolf only gets an honorable mention. Most fans would be more familiar with Agni as the Atma avatar of Heat in Digital Devil Saga Avatar Tuner, as opposed to a demon in mainline SMT. However, Agni was one of the very few Embryon Atma avatars to have made previous appearances, and is in fact the third most recurring demon to be an avatar in said game, the first two being Indra and Cerberus. While my emotional investment in the story of DDS and the character of Heat specifically are the reasons for me wanting to see more of the demon his avatar was based off of in future games, it is the Shin Megami Tensei I design that I would like to see return, both for the purposes of keeping the Atma avatar's unique interpretations for DDS in the vein of individual personas, and because this is a strong design that deserves note even outside of its association to one of the most underrated and best games in SMT. Though demons made of fire are not an uncommon design motif in SMT, Agni's is truly the best take specifically, and ironically because of the chilling feelings conveyed with this design via the darker navy blue flames and the visibly solid corpse within, where it is ambiguous on whether or not the man is rising up or being consumed by the flames. And that's the video. Sorry for the delay, my internet was buggy and I couldn't get things uploaded for a while, so I had to delay this video. I plan on just taking a break from this series after this. I'll still be doing lists of 6, specifically about SMT stuff, but before I go into hopefully Strange Journey and other games in the series, I'll be doing some Persona videos because there are rumors that Persona 6 is going to be announced next year or is going to come out next year. I have lists of 6 that I just want to get out before that happens, so I'm just going to prioritize doing them. Just in case we get an announcement trailer by surprise this year or something. And that's basically it, so sorry for the delay. With any luck, my Pride Month special should be the next video on this channel, but I might, But since that's taking a bit longer to edit because I'm editing animated clips and stuff, which don't sync up quite as well to my words as a still image can because it's a still image. So it has just taken me a bit longer than I would have liked to finish the editing. And so what I might do instead, or actually leaning toward, is just making a, I guess, shorter video to release next week instead of my Pride Month special, which will just be delayed by hopefully only a few days. And then I'll get on to my list of 6 for this month. So that's my June plans. I hope everybody sticks around and enjoys them. Please like and subscribe if you're interested in my content. And I guess this is a good place to leave off. So, right now, to the left of the screen here, that should be my last list of 6, which was 6 demons from SMT2 to reappear in Persona 6. And to the right is just whatever YouTube algorithms recommend you. Uh, Happy Pride Month.